Hi, welcome to Saluso and Mission Aligned Living. I'm your host, Jamie Lujan. I'm pleased to welcome Joel Ramirez, an experienced CPA and enrolled agent with over a decade of accounting experience. Joel founded his own accounting firm, specializing in small business tax preparation, bookkeeping, and financial planning in 2001. He joins us today to share tips for tax planning tailored to small business owners and entrepreneurs. It's great to have you here, Joel. We're starting this series with you as you've made being able to access money matters, understanding what it means, how it impacts us. You've made that topic accessible. And so with that, I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about who you are and how you came to be in this space.
Yeah, thanks, Jamie. Thank you. I've been really excited to jump on and get to talk to everybody about some taxes and our journey. So my name is Joel Ramirez. I'm a managing partner with Vida Accounting. My journey kind of began when I moved to Colorado back in 2016 to start getting my master's degree at Regis University. From there, I started to dive a little bit deeper into taxes. And from that, it made me open my eyes of, I was working in not-for-profits and I was like, wow, there's this whole other side of the world that I need to get into. So from there, I started taking on clients just on the side while I was still working a full-time job. And when I finally got my client base to a reasonable level, I decided, I'm going to go all in on Vida Accounting. And I really wanted to curate my specialties to small businesses because that's what I was mainly working with. And so from there, we began and just started rolling and picking up as many small businesses as we could and helping them out along their journeys. And it's been a great experience so far.
Nice. What about small business resonates with you? Why small businesses?
I come from a small community back from Western Nebraska, and that's kind of the heartbone, right? Of, rural America's small businesses working together, seeing my own family. My father, he was an immigrant from Mexico. He had his own small business, and that story always resonated with me, right? That he started just from his bootstraps and pulled himself up and worked his way through to an American dream. So it kind of resonated with me that I want to help small businesses because that's the start where my family began.
Awesome. Awesome. So it's definitely, I'm sure, no accident, Vida Accounting.
Yep, no accident. I was gonna say, lifetime of having my father. He wasn't, born from Leon, Mexico, and kind of just growing up in that Hispanic background. Just I wanted to make sure that we can represent the community.
I love that. And so talk to me a little bit, in particularly, right, with our Latino community, our shared community there. Why is it so important for us to be paying attention as entrepreneurs to our bookkeeping and our taxes?
I think it's a great question. A lot of people coming in from the Latino community, this their first or second generation business owners, and this is their first time getting to dive into bookkeeping, dive into taxes, right? And most people are used to just filing their W-2 income, where this is a whole new complex issue, right? You have payroll taxes, you have self-employment taxes, and when you get into the operation sides of things, it's great to run your business, but then when it comes to tax season, when it comes to paying payroll taxes, it can blindside you. And so it's nice to be able to actually stay on top of that. And when it comes to the bookkeeping side of things, you really want to know the financial health of your company. What, right? You can see money coming in and out, but the profit and loss, the balance sheet, the statement of cash flows, that's really what brings it all together to show, are you running a profitable business? And I think in the Latino community, especially, that it's just, we gotta dive into that more and not have it be a black eye of like, I don't want to ask for help. Come and ask for help. It's fine to come and have a conversation with a CPA, and it's not going to be some crazy experience. It should be pretty relaxed.
What do you see? I mean, I will say from a personal place, right? When I don't feel like my books are in order, and I don't know, where this comes from, maybe it's just me, but when my books aren't in order, I definitely feel this sense of anxiety and this like, I just want to push it off, right? I don't want to address it, or I don't know where to go for help, given that it's so, it's so chaotic, it's so messed up. How do I get over that, and where do I go? Where do I start?
So really you could start, my plug myself a little here. Vida Accounting can definitely go in there and help you. We go in, we look at your books, we look at your bank accounts, we start pulling in transactions. And then even for an individual, just to reach out to maybe a local bookkeeper that you know, right? That they can go in there and walk you through these processes. There's so many opportunities for people to be able to speak and talk to someone like myself or other CPAs or bookkeepers of, hey, let's get in there. Let's take a look at your books. Let's set up a process so it's not this year-end thing. It's something that you can see every month, every quarter, depending on your size and your needs of like, what do you need to be doing to set that up? And that's where I think myself and Vida has done a great job with small businesses is that we try to educate our clients, right? We're going to walk you through every step of the process, why we're doing the things we're doing, journal entries we're setting, and set you up for success from there.
Yeah. Getting super personal, right? I know from my own experience when I wasn't paying attention to the cash flows, right? When I wasn't paying attention to the P&Ls early in my entrepreneurial journey, it just impacted not only kind of how I ran my business or the decisions that I made, but it really impacted my personal life too, right? Because there was constantly this consistent feeling of anxiety or worry or, just not understanding. And so I would definitely say, from my own personal experience, when those things aren't addressed, not only does it impact how you make business decisions, but it really impacts your personal health as well, right? Do you
Oh,
see that in
oh,
clients that you work with?
most definitely. One of the biggest issues with my clients is, a lot of times accounts get intermingled when you start a business in the
Yep.
beginning. And it becomes that line of drawing. How do you make your business healthy to make your personal life healthy, right?
Mm.
You started a business for a reason. And in the end, it's helping you make a profit, but you have to make sure you balance in between your personal and business life of managing your cash flow, managing your profit and losses and making sure that when they start to intermingle and you start to confuse these two items together, it gets very blurry and can cause so much stress. And that is one of the biggest things that I see with clients is that stress, the stress from having to deal with intermingled financials.
Yeah. Yeah. Even if you're excellent at what you do, right? As a business owner, even if
Yep.
you're excellent at your craft or your trade, mixed financials will always wreak havoc. What else? What do you see are the biggest challenges with business owners as it relates to understanding their bookkeeping or tax planning?
I think understanding, when we get to accounting, you start hearing things like profit and loss, income statement, balance sheet statement of cash flows. And it comes to that getting educated on that, right? Like it seems like something that you can always pass off to your accountant. But I always recommend to my clients, let's dive a little deeper. Let's see what are your current assets and what does that actually mean to you? Like what are your current liabilities? And the only reason it's not to give you a PhD or a master's degree in accounting or anything like that. It's just so that you have that understanding because your business journey can move from this business to 5 other businesses down the line and that you get that understanding of having accounting behind you, I think is huge.
That's a great point. How many clients do you see in kind of your small business space that either have had a business before or have multiple businesses now?
I would say about 90% of my clients are growing of this is not just their first business, this is their second, this is their third. They're serial entrepreneurs, and it's fun to see. And I think when they get that education piece behind them, it really starts driving business decisions that you want to hire a new employee. Well, let's take a look at how that's going to impact you in the future.
Yeah, I definitely call us the land of the misfit toys, right? Which is like we keep doing this over and over. And if we were, kind of built like the rest of the toys, maybe things would be a little bit easier. But when we have somebody stable in our corner, especially in the financial space, we can just make better decisions and hopefully bring some peace, right, to our business and our professional space, or our business and our personal space. Talk to me a little bit. You said that your dad was from Mexico. I know particularly in our Latino community, we have a blend of English primary and Spanish primary in our community. Can you speak just a little bit to language barriers and what should I be knowing? What should I be asking if English isn't my primary language?
For me personally, I actually have brought my dad in. He helps translate during tax season because we love to help support the community. And it's just he's a natural born speaker, so he can flow into a conversation a little bit easier than I can, and it feels a little bit more natural for him. But when it comes to asking questions, for someone in the Latin community, it can really just come down to I have a business, right? Or using tools like our biggest tools, we always have Google Translate around so that we can at least get some understanding for both of us to have that. We've also started trying to implement a little bit better tools that can actually gather live data. So while we're speaking on the phone, they can speak complete Spanish or Portuguese, but whichever language they may speak, and we can still speak English and not have that barrier of that these tools can translate in real time to help them.
That's excellent. So, one of the questions comes to reputability. How do I know? So this is a little bit of a two-part. Um, what is the difference between, I hear CPA, bookkeeper, tax planner, money manager? What's the difference? Which tool do I use for what?
Yeah, it all comes into the stages of your business. And in my personal opinion, I think every business owner should get in contact with a CPA, if not an enrolled agent. Enrolled agents and CPA have that tax side of things down for you, right? Where a bookkeeper can come in, they're going to clean your books up. They're going to get your journal entries in correct inside QuickBooks or whichever accounting software you may be using or set you up in one where they're more for the beginning stages of your company, right? They're going to come in, they're going to get things data entered for you, they're going to build out something for you that can get sent to the CPA or enrolled agent to do that. Where then when we move into tax planning, that's really your business is taking off. You really need to start planning because you're having hefty tax bills every single year, and this gets you ahead of what can I do to lower that, and what can I do to start getting quarterly payments put in. And I think it depends on the size of your business, right? In my opinion, I think every small business owner should talk to a bookkeeper, talk to a CPA, and set yourself up for success, even if it's just a one-time consultation with them, right? Like, I think that's the hardest part is that sometimes it's tough to be like, I'm going to give somebody $100 for an hour of their time, or even just 50 for maybe a bookkeeper, right? But it's worth that time, even if you do it one time a year.
Absolutely. What would you say? And I know, again, I'll kind of share my personal experience. I think at the beginning, early on in my entrepreneurial journey, it was I'll just do it myself, right? I'll do the spreadsheets or I'll, enter in the items. I will tell you, it got overwhelming quickly. And I will say more than anything, it got confusing because I would run into either words, terminology, um, a new rule, a new regulation, and then it went from something that was very easy, like a journal entry or recording an expense, to something that felt very challenging quickly. And so I will say it's definitely money well spent to and peace again, right? Coming back to peace to really work with a professional that you trust in these matters because very quickly it goes from just recording an expense to a new regulation. I just texted you a couple days ago, right? And I was like, Joel, I just heard about this. What are we doing? What's happening? And you were able to put me at peace quickly. Jamie, here's what it is. Here's how we're going to handle it for clients that are not with me. Here's how I'm pointing them to quality resources. And so I will say there's just something to be said, same as anything else, right? Any other service or product, when there's quality there, it's worth paying for, and you will be time, money, peace, energy ahead in making that investment, into your personal space and into your business.
Yeah, I think that's huge. As an entrepreneur, someone comes in, your main focus is operations, depending if it's service or product based. And when you're trying to have multiple hats on, I think it's great at the beginning, but in the end, you kind of have to start trusting on your accountants, your CPA, you start trusting on your vendors. And I think leaning into that space is just I can see the stress come off my clients that they know that they can reach out to me. I'm here all the time to answer calls, text, emails, and we're very responsive, which like I said, not just a plug for myself, but all bookkeepers and CPAs that's a great way to judge your relationship is response times and how well are people getting back to you and handling your situations for you. And if you guys have a good fit, actually.
Yeah, talk about that a little bit. That's actually a great point. I'm glad you said that.
Yeah. So sometimes, you meet people and sometimes you just gel right away and it's just great. But sometimes you just don't have the same philosophies about life. Maybe you
Mm.
have different missions in life, right? And I think sometimes it's just really nice when you can gel together. And it doesn't always have to be a bad break. Sometimes you have ends of relationships in business, and it's not a bad thing. You sometimes just find someone that you click better with to be able to represent you in tax and accounting or even legal, right? You find a great lawyer that can support you during that time. And I think it's just huge in business is to have good relationships that work and aren't friction all the time.
Yeah, that's a great point. How have you noticed when you gel with a client or when they gel with you, how does that change the dynamic of, being able to, work together? And again, kind of back to this client piece, mission alignment. I love that you said that. When you and the client gel and you both are in, how does that change things?
The walls really come down. I think in the business world, a lot of times we're very up straight and we're going to communicate, but communication can really turn into something different when you feel comfortable. And when we
Mm.
get to that point inside with most of my clients, they feel comfortable to send me a text. They feel comfortable to just give me a call and they know I'm not going to have a negative reaction to what they're saying, or they know I'm going to jump on that response. And it helps me to gather more information from them. Sometimes you might forget it. And when you feel a little bit more at peace with someone, or not necessarily at peace, but just feel comfortable to speak fully about your financial situation, it makes a huge difference in getting all the pieces together and then moving forward from there.
I That's so important. I love that you said that because, I think sometimes when we think about, counseling or therapy or doctors or some of these spaces where it's like, I don't feel right or I feel great or I really enjoy this person. We don't necessarily apply that same lens or understand how to apply that same lens in accounting matters, in tax matters, in legal matters. Um, but I really appreciate that you're bringing that. No, it is absolutely important because if you don't feel comfortable communicating or being fully transparent or being honest, or, your financial planner or bookkeeper, CPA, just, you just don't like how your interactions are with them, you're not going to reach out when you have questions, right? You're going to do the basic, the bare minimum, and you're not going to be better off for it. And ultimately, again, right, it'll come into that space very quickly where I thought everything was fine and now everything is kind of a mess.
Yep. And I think that's huge. You can get to the end of the year and you're like, whoa, I thought our weekly check-ins, monthly, quarterly check-ins, we were touching base on everything. But really, when you get to the end of the year, you're like, oh, they had other things on their mind. They had other things that they didn't feel comfortable enough to bring up yet. And they thought it might be better to wait till the end to tell me, where it's just, I want them to feel comfortable that you come to me when you think you have a bad situation or a good situation, and we're going to help you through it. We love the good situations, but that's what we're here for, is to help do the bad too.
I appreciate that. So when you talk about, the end, I think I've come to find out that I don't know that there's ever an end, a beginning or an end in this. What's the best time that people should be thinking about their bookkeeping or their tax preparation?
In my opinion, I think it's a year-round thing, right? At least for small business owners, it should be at least a quarterly discussion of, where am I at with how much taxes I possibly owe when it comes to tax planning, talking to your CPA of, hey, what plans do we have in place for this year? Or what should I make a quarterly payment on necessarily, right? And then with bookkeeping, at least a minimum of quarterly. I generally recommend review your books every single month, just so that you have that peace of mind, like, how well did I actually do this month? Instead of getting to the end of the year and saying like, well, I missed my sales goal by 100,000, 200,000. Where it's like, if we would have looked at that probably back in June, July timeframe, you would have probably got on top of sales or cut expenses to really monetize and really get the business going again. Right. And I think that's just the biggest thing of looking at it, is making sure to leave a timeline of at least quarterly planning of all these items. And then when it comes to, extensions, making sure if you're a business, depending on how you're structured, March 15th, make sure you get your extensions or business taxes filed, and April 15th, get the personal
Well,
filed.
March. Okay. All right.
Yeah, we're getting close.
Very good. Um, can you share with us some common mistakes that you see business owners making that can get them into trouble? We talked a little bit about um, mingling finances, personal and business. What are some other things that you see that, when you talk to a business owner, they think is just kind of common practice, not that big of a deal. And then you see over time no, this is actually, really a problem. We want to make sure that we address this.
One of the biggest things I've actually seen over the last few years is, you're building your assets. So you're getting vehicles, you're getting buildings. And a
Mm.
lot of the times it's that commingling again of, I may have did the car insurance personally instead of through the business. And you start putting your business at risk a little bit more by doing things like this. Right. And I think that's a huge thing of that as you grow in the beginning, of course, you're going to have some things that you're personally financing for the business. But as you grow, you have to start setting apart that this is your business expense and it has to be separated from your personal. And I think that's the biggest thing, right? Keeping those things separated, because it's one of the biggest issues that we run into with a lot of our clients is they could be running their full personal account out of their business. And that is,
Mm.
you generally, when you sign a business agreement with a bank, it specifically says you cannot do that. And we have to make sure to clean that up as much as we can, right?
You can see my facial expression. I'm like, oh. And then I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that. I remember doing that. I remember how terrible it was.
Yeah, and
Thing
and
it
and it's
for
it, and it's tough when you think about cash flow in that situation, right? Because you're trying to
absolutely.
balance paying yourself and paying the business, and that is one of the biggest mistakes they make is that commingling that cash, and that you have to set aside cash for your personal self at all times, or you're gonna just keep running into these issues.
Absolutely. One of the things that this makes me think of, right, is where should business owners save versus where should they splurge? And what I mean by that is, there's so many different softwares out there. There's so many different tools that some of these, really make sense. This is a great investment. I would splurge here, get what you need. And some of them is you really don't need that. If you're new and you're starting out, you might not need that. And so I think you did a really great job early on saying like, at the beginning, at a minimum, you definitely need a bookkeeper, right? This is a place to splurge. It feels like, it feels like I can do it myself, but really we see definitely a place to splurge. Spend some money on that. Um, as you grow, CPA, right? Tax planning. Where else in the journey or, where other areas that you would say, here's definitely where I would splurge, here's definitely where I would save?
To start off with like the splurge, as your business grows, you start to find out that your CPA is giving you tax advice, but they're not giving you financial advice technically,
Mm.
right? They're not going to tell you you have a surplus of 100,000, 10,000, 5,000. That's where you need a money manager, a financial advisor to step in. And while it's a splurge in the beginning, it almost becomes a necessity a little
Yep.
bit later on in the business journey of that, your accountant and bookkeeper, they can give you general advice on that, but that's where a financial advisor is going to help you really grow your assets. And that's still your accountant's going to help you manage that part of that piece too. And, early on, I think you hit it on the nail is that what I've seen a lot lately with small businesses is there's so much software out there now to automate everything. And I think in the beginning stages of a company and even in the later stages, you can go spend tons of money on software, but if it's not giving you the end product that you need, which we run into a lot, I think, in our society right now, that maybe Excel could have did it. Maybe a cheaper software could have did it. And that might be where you need to cut back in that. We love talking about AI, but that might be the point of, let's pull back a little bit until the funds feel that we can splurge on that a little bit.
Absolutely. Absolutely. When I think about, you know, these documents that we've been talking about, right? My cash flow statements, my P&L, um, you know, all of these different there's so many different dashboards it feels like, and they don't necessarily all make sense. What should I be using as kind of the the piece of information that can help me really understand the financial health of my business?
I really always point my clients to the profit and loss, right? It's going to break down revenue, expenses, and show you net income. And then if you're working with a CPA, your profit after taxes as well. But then crucial to that, you really need cash flow statements because when you start looking at it, the profit and loss doesn't always report all of your expenses, right? You have a loan, you might not see the piece that's touching the balance sheet. And that's where a lot of my clients get lost. So I always find that the profit and loss and cash flow statements are just critical pieces of your everyday, every month running of your business that's going to push you and guide you. and making the best financial decisions. Because you might have made a decision off the profit and loss and you really didn't have the cash to back that piece up.
Absolutely. I think one of the things that I've seen, coming through this journey and talking with other founders is really this mindset, this cash flow mindset versus an accruals mindset, right? So, can you talk a little bit about that and kind of what's been your experience and any thoughts that you might give us on that?
Yeah, I think it's great when I hear someone say accrual. It's most
I
business owners
I
don't
have an
ever
accounting
say
background and I'm smart enough to know I
it.
really appreciate working with you because then I can have the peace. I know enough to know I don't know enough. We'll say
Yeah.
that.
And it's great when you think about accrual accounting and accruing for things. It's expenses and things that you may not have paid for yet. You might not have had the cash flow this month and you had net terms on an invoice and you're going to pay it next month, right? But it's going to show up as an expense on your profit and loss. And I think that's where the disconnect can happen is either you get very focused on your profit and loss statement and you're starting to say, I have money, but it's not actually showing up in the bank account, or you get very focused on your cash flow and you forget that you might actually be running losses on your profit and loss. And that is not necessarily a good thing either. So I think that's where the disconnect can happen of that accruing is for something that it happened, but you may not have paid for it yet. You may not have received money yet. And that is the biggest thing is the accounts receivable piece, right? We build for a bunch of services, but we don't get paid for 20 days and we have people not paying yet. And so you keep looking at that profit and loss thinking you made 100,000, but you've only been paid 30,000. And it becomes such a huge issue for businesses when you can't intermingle those two.
Absolutely. You know who I think about when we talk about this particular piece is folks doing government contracting, right? We see that net pay. I mean, it can go 90, 120 days, before that those receivables are actually coming in as cash flow. And that could throw everything off, right? Not only for yourself, for employees, for payroll, all of these different expenses that you're incurring today. You've done the work, you have the contract, you have the receivable, but you have cash flow that needs to go out.
Yep. And I think that it's a huge thing I see with all my clients is at some point they're going to work with a government entity or someone that has really long terms. And it's having to use the cash flow that you have now and think of future of I'm not receiving this for 3 months. We have to be able to make payroll, pay our vendors, keep operations going until cash comes in and, having short-term lines of credit or properly using credit cards and these other items of running a business, right? Really come into play during that time. And I think that's where that checking in on your financial health really starts to help, right? Of that you think that you have this money, but you don't yet.
Right. That's a great point. So, when I've thought about bookkeeping or taxes, it feels very like after the fact, right? But the conversation that we're having right now is definitely business planning and business development, right? And so it sounds like it's a really important to work with your CPA and your tax planner to say, I'm thinking about growing. I'm thinking about scaling. I'm thinking about getting into government contracting. Can we make sure that I'm set up properly so that I can hold, a 90-day net terms, so that I'm going to be okay, so that my employees are okay. If these receivables don't come in for 4 months, right? And it's a very real thing when working with the government or when working with certain vendors. Again, you might have done the work. It's not that the work isn't done, not that they're going to pay it. The terms are just so lopsided that it sounds like it's really a great opportunity to check in with you or whoever your CPA or financial person is on the planning side of things is just as important.
And that's one thing we've been really trying to stress and work with our clients is that we put budgets and you put forecasts and you're not always going to hit them. It just gives you something to work off of and to build off of in the future of that. You're so in the mindset of keeping your operations running today, this week and this month, but it's great to look out into the future and start to, your financial statements can do that. Pro forma financial statements and your CPAs and bookkeepers should all be able to put that together for you. And, maybe it's a one-time fee that they charge you a year, but I think it's more than happy to put that investment inside of it, and you're gonna see the return on it.
Absolutely. So what is coming in 2024? What are some things that we really need to be paying attention to in 2024 for small business?
It's something you and I have actually talked about, beneficial ownership. Actually, a lot of small businesses are going to have to declare for this, and it's becoming a space. If you don't know if you need legal, an accountant to do it, and my best practice of, like I said, I'm helping all of my current clients with it. But in my opinion, I think most people can reach out, go to the website, find where to file this document, and get your business registered, register all of your owners, and make sure that you're registered going into the year. They're going to be a little lenient for our first year, but it's always just best to don't put this off until the end of the year. Get this going now. They started accepting reports January 1st. And I think this can be something that blindsides a ton of small business owners later on in the year.
Interesting. So what is it called again, and where should we look?
It's beneficial ownership authorization, and you'll go
Okay.
to, it actually the Federal and Crimes Inspection Agency is who actually runs it and who you will be filing with. So it's not with the SEC or anyone. It's actually the FinCam. And
Well,
so they can go directly to their website. They can go on there. It really walks you through a lot of this, or, Vida is helping walking people through a lot of this of, like, we're not lawyers, so we can't give out legal advice or anything like that, but we try to guide people into it's a very simple setup, but something that could come back and bite some people if it's not done this year.
and what it was the intent? Just curious. Sounds very serious.
Yeah. So it was just to get more people reporting businesses that you own. You may own a business, but you might not technically be reporting income on it. And so this just makes sure that it gives the government a higher hairbird's view of who actually owns this company, and lets us know, like, hey, should they be paying taxes? Should they be filing more reports with the rest of the government, and keep that good view of that for the government?
Excellent. And just kind of the last couple of questions, right? What do I do if I feel like I'm just totally lost? Like, what is step one, right? Just basic step one.
I think step one for me is reach out to, at minimum, a bookkeeper, and just sit down and have a conversation with them. Most people are going to give you an intro meeting. And even if you just tell them, I need 2 hours of your time, I need to get my books together. A lot of times people don't have an accounting software set up. They don't
Right.
have separate bank accounts. And these are the things of when you sit with someone, you can say, I'm going to get an accounting software set up, going to get my bank account separated. And then as for the growing side of the business, that's when you reach into okay, I'm going to reach out to a CPA and truly get on that. I have this large tax bill at the end of the year. I need to start getting that taken care of in
Yeah.
March and April, right? So we can jump on that sooner to get in the conversation with a CPA or a bookkeeper or even a financial planner, right? And anyone that you can reach out to in the finance world, I think, is a great step of just getting that introduction. And you might spend an hour or two and it might cost you $100, but it'll be money well spent that you have this knowledge bank. And now you can move forward of, maybe that person wasn't right for you, and now you can go look for someone that's going to fit your.
Awesome. And what if I'm not using my social as my primary identifier for my taxes? Is all of this information still relevant? Can I still walk down this journey?
Yes, yes. I think when you're looking at it, some people do go the LLC route, set up an EIN number, they get the whole structure set up, or even an S corp, and they're still running without this. I still think that journey still begins with talking to a bookkeeper, or if you're at the journey of setting up an LLC, I truly think it's best to speak to a CPA to make sure you're meeting all your filing requirements, getting everything set up through the cities and states, especially here in Colorado, right? You could be working out of Denver, Aurora, and that's huge to make sure you're taking care of your local filings.
Awesome. And so as we close, again, there's just something so personal in the connection between my revenue, my income, who my loans are with, who my lines of credit are with, to my own personal well-being, and to mission alignment in my living and how I'm making decisions both personally and professionally. So, um, if you would just kind of give us your thoughts truly on what this connection is, what it means, and how you see people be changed in how they're able to live when this piece is taken care of.
everyone starts a business for a specific reason, and most of the time it's not money. It's a passion of yourself, and you build your mission statement from there. And I think when you run into a business owner that has their mission aligned, it aligns business and personal. It really drives everything for the business and themselves personally, right? And as they keep going down this journey, and it's myself, right? I really wanted to make sure I focused in on small businesses and having this. The biggest feedback I get from clients is they're usually not getting this much hands-on attention from someone and not getting these things that usually, like, to me, it's just great customer service, but also just we're humans and I want to make a connection with someone and be able to know that I'm here to help you. And I think that's just something great to think of when we think about mission alignment and helping out the Latin community and helping out just humans in general, that it's just we come aligned and help people. And that's kind of my biggest thing behind that.
Yeah, absolutely. I always look at, money as a tool, right? It's the tool. It's the tool that helps you live the way that you want to live, right? It's the tool that helps you accomplish that time with your family or take those vacations or make those memories. And so if we can think of it in that way versus something that controls us versus, not having the information that we need and feeling overwhelmed or feeling controlled by our business, there's a way to fix that, right? There's a way to get out of that cycle. And so I really, really, really appreciate your time in bringing the human element to what is our business finances for the purpose of being able to have thriving in our personal life. So I know I've truly appreciated working with you. I appreciate your time being here. And so if people want to get a hold of you directly, let us know. How do we get a hold of you? How do we work with you?
Yeah, my main form of communicating with clients is actually my website. You can reach that at vidaaccounting.com. And that is a great way to reach out to us. It helps us streamline everything in the process. And, feel more free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. We love to reach out and talk. We'll have DMs and talk with people on there. But our website is just, if you want to talk to me, send us a message and leave me your phone number and I will give you a call same day.
Very good. Yeah. And I know sometimes websites, I'm always like, I don't want to go to a website. It's so impersonal. I will tell you firsthand experience. I've been able to connect with Joel, text, super responsive. And I say that because sometimes, the best way to get a hold of us is in some streamlined mechanisms. But really, at the end of the day, it's about that personal one-on-one connection. So, as Joel said, make sure that the folks that you're speaking with your money about really care about who you are as an individual, because it will change the way that you're able to live, business, grow, thrive, all the things that we're here to do. So, Joel, thank you so much for your time. I really, really appreciate it. Hope to have you back on as we grow and as we scale and as we get into more contracts. So, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. And it was a great time getting to come and chat with all this about you.
Sounds good. All right. We will see you on the next episode.